this is unexpected. Trump's base in like deep red places is kind of withering away a little bit. Things are not looking good in Trump world. And you can tell that things are not looking good in Trump world because they're freaking out over this. I think I'm going to start it off with the Seltzer poll. And we're not talking about the Alka-Seltzer, okay? Now, something very big people were waiting on, okay? People were waiting on something real big. I've said time and time again that in spite of running a dog campaign, I kept telling libs to fear not, okay? And that ultimately Kamala Harris is probably still going to win in spite of all of my criticisms of her campaign. I've said this for months and months. The closest I've gotten to thinking that the election might change in favor of Donald Trump was a couple of weeks prior, where the momentum swung so heavily in the direction of Donald Trump. And I think that this does not mean that like Kamala Harris is absolutely 100% going to win. You know, you would have asked me a couple months ago, I would have given Kamala Harris a chance as a much higher likelihood as I did. So far, especially with this with the Seltzer poll coming out of Iowa, which I'm going to get into right now, my attitude has been fairly correct. I still maintain the position that Kamala Harris is winning in spite of her bad campaigning, okay? Make no mistake. Many people will turn around and say, what do you mean? You're so critical of Kamala Harris. Like, you're wrong. She's going to win if you think she's going to win, or maybe she wins and then you're going to be like, well, son, I told you so. Like, she was going to win. She did a good campaign. You were wrong. It's like, no, it's not just about winning. It's about how you win. It's about what margins you win with. It's about what base of support you are capable of activating in that process. And I think Kamala Harris should not even be on shaky ground at this point. That's my point. That's my issue. This should not be a close race. The road to Harris leading in Iowa, yeah, she's probably going to send some people over there now that came out. But yeah, Seltzer's considered the gold standard, except she was demoted to the silver standard, I believe, for one of the caucuses that she did not participate in. Even if her poll is wrong, right? Like, she has a pretty solid track record. She has a incredibly strong track record of being off by like basically 1 point. You know what I mean? If you look at like her last Iowa poll versus results here. I mean, this is a good example. 2022 Senate, R+12, R+12. 2020 President, R+7. Turns out it was R+8. 2027, R+4. Turns out it was R+7. 2018 Governor, D+2. It's R+3. 2016 President, R+7, R+9. 2014 Senate, R+7, R+8. 2012 Senate President, D+5, D+6. So governor is always going to be different. The gubernatorial race is unique, but beyond that, I mean, this is as reliable as you can be. You know what I mean? There is nothing you don't get more reliable than that in terms of polling. And also, yeah, the average Iowan voter just seemingly loves when the Democrats don't have a ass president. You know what I mean? Iowans are basically like, give me a black Democrat. I don't want no I don't want no white boy, okay? Which is funny because it's like 98% white. They do. This is 2 for 2, okay? That's where I disagree with you. Ours should be, by all accounts, absolutely crushing Dems, massive inflation, economic unrest, globally incumbent parties, trash because of economic stuff, border unrest. The baseline. No, this is not a normal raise. What are you talking about? Yeah, if Nikki Haley was running right now, it would be Jover. The do you mean? This is Donald Trump. Donald Trump is maxed out on his fucking base of support and has a very limited avenue to pick up new people, okay? He was the president. He won once. He was the president for 4 years, and then he lost. It's over at that point. People have made up their minds about him. I think that's crazy to say Kamala winning is a wild upset. That's insane. If it wasn't Donald Trump, you are 100% right. But it's not it's not someone else. It's Donald Trump. So if you're going up against Donald Trump, a person who already lost an election, okay? A person who already lost an election, yeah, it's pretty nutty that it's like this close. This could have been better for Donald Trump even against Kamala Harris. But Donald Trump is still Donald Trump. And he keeps reminding everybody how he is Donald Trump. And this is what I said about the Iowa poll, right? The Des Moines Seltzer poll. I said, look, you got Roe v. Wade, massively consequential. You got January 6th, okay? Which isn't necessarily like a threat to democracy or whatever, because like pollsters show that's not the top priority at all. But it actually spells that he's like a sore loser and really narcissistic, which reminds everybody what they don't like about Donald Trump, okay? That's important. That is absolutely important. You got J.D. Vance, massively consequential pick, massively awful pick for Donald Trump. That's a base pick. You already had the base. Good luck on that. You have tens of millions of dollars wasted on anti-trans ads. Shows that their priorities are in the wrong direction. Shows that they literally think that these are the top priorities. It's like, you're stupid. Just talk about the economy, Jack. You idiot. Talk about the economy. Talk about how you're anti-war, but you won't do that because you're Donald Trump. Then you have anti-immigrant screeds instead of messaging discipline on economy. Dog tariff plan, which was effectively countered as a mass sales tax, which I really liked. Kamala Harris's campaign has had a couple big W's. That was one of them. Okay. On the communication front, that was a very effective way of deflating the whole tariff thing, because it was objectively a stupid economic policy anyway. Threatening to use the military on enemy from within, and these are the results. Every normie lib I know thinks the anti-trans ads are effective. I don't know why. Just stop talking to liberals, please, okay? The reason why normie liberals think it's effective is the exact same reason why they think Kamala Harris is brilliant for tacking to the right. Because they're 1, stupid, 2, terrified of Republicans, and 3, they kind of like Republicans at the same time. Okay? That's why everything liberals advocate for, everything liberals talk about comes from a place of fear. Okay? Yeah, here it is. Seltzer poll has Trump with just 28% of senior women and losing senior men by 2 points straight into the garbage. Similarly, this guy is saying it's thrown into the garbage. I don't think it's garbanzo at all. I think it's valid. I think the normal whites theory is undefeated. Normal whites don't like this shit, okay? Need a good Seltzer poll on top of the survey plus the Kansas R+5 one to fully establish a Trump KKK racker, KKK collapse narrative. Ohio polling, where there's no real incentive to herd, corresponding with the Washington primary more than the rest of the Rust Belt, it has been noted. Like, that's crazy. Ohio being only +3 is crazy. I think that a lot of people are annoyed with the way that Donald Trump and his silly ass hogs operate, okay? And I know there are people in here who voted for Jill Stein. There are people in here who are like objectively not voting. How much do you hate Donald Trump and his stupid ass supporters? If you feel that way, then yeah, you think people who don't give a about Gaza are not feeling that way. Of course they're feeling that way. It's like very little to do with people going out and voting for Kamala Harris's wonderful $50,000 in tax cuts for startups policy, and everything to do with, I don't want these freaks anywhere near a position of power. And Seltzer, you're an embarrassment. Was the Diddy paycheck really worth it? And Seltzer, after P. Diddy invites a random Iowa pollster to his file ring parties for some reason. Okay, so there's a 56-year-old woman here. The reason I was turning blue is abortion. Yes. Abortion is yet another obviously annoying Trump thing, okay? People are annoyed. People are mad. People are grossed out by the way that the Trumpian Republican Party operates. This is literally not anything different than the 2022 midterm red wave turning into a baby puddle. It's the same. The only difference between that and what's going on right now, and it's not like this isn't in the bag. I know that like Libs are doing victory laps as though like the election is over, you know, they're going to win, whatever. It's still close. I don't think people understand. It's still a toss-up, in my opinion, but I still favor Kamala Harris on it for how badly Donald Trump has presented himself this entire time. He's done no convincing whatsoever that he would be different somehow, or at least like try to remind people of all the good stuff about how the economy was good when he was president, and instead doing like the worst campaigning possible by sucking the microphone and complaining for 45 minutes about like audio people, or just being a racist piece of that is really annoying and people don't respond positively to. Final New York Times polls, Edinger Momentum was waiting on them too, shows a tie in Michigan and PA. My point always was that this race should not be close because of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is ass, and that much is 100% correct. Donald Trump is a candidate, and he doesn't have the juice that he once had. He has no way of like presenting himself as a moderate. Like, he's not doing a good enough job with that, and he's trying to pick apart in this incredibly limited base of support that he has. He's trying to pick apart like conspiracy voters, and that is a notoriously unreliable type of voter to try and win over. Okay, they will support you. They'll go out and say they love you, but will they go out and vote? We'll see. Let's take a look. Let's do some poll watch, and we'll talk about Seltzer.
Chief Rick Klein is here with our latest poll with Ipsos. And this race, Rick, I mean, it is as close as ever.
Yeah, good morning, Janae. Our ABC News Ipsos poll has Kamala Harris just out this morning in 49-46 lead over Donald Trump. That's just a tick tighter than last week when we had the lead at 4 points, but it's all well within the margin of error. And narrowing into the 7 battleground states, guess what? Nothing changes. An identical lead, 49-46 across the 7 battlegrounds. But inside the individual battlegrounds, we still see a little bit of a different story. These are our 538 polling averages. Harris leading in Michigan and Wisconsin, but by less than a percentage point. Right now, trailing narrowly in the polling averages everywhere else, including Arizona. That's 2.5 points. But again, all of this is within any polling margin of error, and there's new polls even out this morning that would suggest a tighter race, even if that's possible here. And there are signs of discontent everywhere, particularly among voters for Donald Trump. But among all voters, 74% say that the country is on the wrong track going into Election Day. That includes half of Harris supporters, and wait for it, 98% of Trump voters say we are on the wrong track as a country. And 60% of voters say they are still dissatisfied with the candidates. And we finally found an area of bipartisan unity. 61% of Harris supporters and 57% of Trump supporters agree that they are dissatisfied with the candidates they are voting.
Damn, dog. I thought people loved Harris's campaigning. I thought that they thought that she was hot. That's crazy. I wonder why people are saying that. I wonder how we got here again, dude. How did that happen? Now, listen, and I've repeated this time and time again. She is not Hillary Clinton, okay? She doesn't have the metric ton of dissatisfaction, distaste, anger, resentment, hatred, and conspiracy theories that Hillary Clinton had, which is why it was insane for the Democratic Party to be like, this is the candidate, and you're going to shut up, and you're going to vote for her. Okay. She didn't have that. She doesn't have that, which is why, this is not the end all be all. Okay. Not the worst thing. She, however, is not a very good campaigner. She's just not. She's not very, doesn't have a lot of riz. She's black. America's racist. Oh, no, for sure. That definitely plays a role. America's also sexist too. But guess what? What do I always tell incels? Okay. You don't look at the situation. You don't look at a situation that's like built against you and turn around and say, well, any guy can be 7. I do say that. You got to play to your advantages, and you got to overcome your disadvantages. I would never be like, oh, this person is a black woman, so she shouldn't run for president, especially if they have dope policies. You know what I mean? It don't matter. Like, what? You think she didn't realize that America was racist and that she was a black woman running in a racist country? No, of course she knows that. That's precisely the reason why she didn't do the I'm with her style bullshit. in the way that Hillary Clinton did. I don't think the race is going to be close. I don't understand why they don't factor in the Supreme Court and Congress when they talk about the country being on the wrong track. No. Country being on the wrong track is an understandable predicament, understandable position for people to take. I mean, do you think the country's on the right track? I don't. I don't think the country's on the right track. I get why people say that because it's not on the right track. The wheels have fallen off this.
Voting on this week.
Wow. And Rick, as for the battleground states, what are the candidates eyeing?
You consistently said that Hillary ran a campaign. What was it about her that made you a supporter of her back in the day? What do you mean? I was incredibly critical of Hillary Clinton and talked about how dog she was, but I also understood what it would look like for Donald Trump to be president, and I was right. And that's why I was like, yeah, no, you can't. I like that you said a major supporter of Hillary Clinton. I was like, no, this is unacceptable. You cannot have Donald Trump become president. That is devastating. That is devastating for the country's future. And I was right. Okay.
As their likeliest paths to victory at this point.
Yeah, and you heard Selena lay it out a little bit, but if the polls lined up exactly where things are in the Electoral College, if the polls are right, which is a big if, you'd have Donald Trump winning right now. 287 electoral votes, that's more than 270. But the polls, of course, are often off a little bit. So here's the scenario that Selena was talking about, the blue wall. Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, if they all go for Kamala Harris, that is 270 electoral votes exactly. That means the presidency for her. For Donald Trump, a couple of different paths, but the likeliest, let's say he carries Nevada and Arizona, where he's been leading in the polling averages, Georgia and North Carolina in the South, historically more Republican. He just needs one more state, and it could be any of the big three. Pennsylvania, the likeliest and the biggest prize. That is the biggest battleground, and it is close to a must-win as we see for both candidates. There's agreement on that this year as well.
And Rick, we were talking about this behind the scenes this morning, that poll out of Iowa that now shows Harris leapfrogging, leading Trump. 3%. What can we?
So this is because Seltzer is like a very reputable pollster. People were looking at Iowa being deep red normally. People were looking at this poll and being like, oh, it'll be like +5. If it's like +5 Trump, that is good for Kamala, right? That means that there is a lot of still resentment for Donald Trump from the base. Maybe some people are not going to go out and vote. And people were looking to extract some kind of data from this that would be helpful for a national snapshot of what the broader electorate looks like. So for this poll to just come out +3 for Kamala Harris, okay, it was nutty. Guy for interpreting the Iowa Seltzer poll, Trump +0 to 5, great sign for Harris. Trump 6 to 7, solid result for Harris. Trump 8 to 9, +8 to 9, neutral. Mirrors close Rust Belt polling. Trump +10, not good for Harris. Anything more than 12 and is Jover. This is before the poll came out. That's what the analysis was, because Iowa is supposed to be super red. Well, maybe not super red, but red enough. Iowa allowing huge innovations in map science. Caitlin Clark is Iowa's GOAT. Huge asterisk, +3 within the margin of error, so it's better to call this a dead even poll than Harris ahead by 3. It doesn't matter. The point is, this is unexpected. This doesn't mean that Texas is going to turn blue or whatever, okay? This doesn't mean that at all. What this simply says is that Trump's base in deep red places, at least in the middle of the country, is kind of withering away a little bit in comparison to places like Florida, where he's obviously cooking. Okay. I don't think Kansas is going to turn blue. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm simply saying that things are not looking good in Trump world. And you can tell that things are not looking good in Trump world because they're freaking the out over this. And early voting data showing a lot of women coming out and voting also does not look good for the Trump world, because the Trump world keeps complaining about how men need to go out and vote. Please go out and vote. If you don't vote, you're gay. Iowa voters in 2024 for some reason.
Black woman is speaking. Listen and learn. Listen and learn.
Do you think the other big pollsters are just hurting with a conservative Harris lead? That's the assumption right now. That's And pollsters have said as much. Like they do have a Trump bump that they baked in because they don't want to it up. I'm really glad it's close. They keep saying it's tied. It will get more people to vote. Remember in 2016, they said Hillary had a 90% chance to win, and I think it hurt her chances. A lot of people just decided not to vote. Yeah, there were a lot of issues there. I think the lack of motivation to go out and vote wasn't because Hillary's definitely going to win. I think it was people also despising her and despising Donald Trump too, but definitely despising her. My favorite Iowa meme, Pennsylvania. We're the nation's closest swing state. We don't like Trump, but Kamala hates fracking. This is so difficult. Iowa. It's just, these memes are so stupid. Let's continue.
Glean from that.
Yeah, well, just for starters, remember where Iowa landed last time. That was not particularly close, about an eight or 9 point win for Donald Trump. And it's possible that this poll is on to something powerful. It could be an outlier, it could be off. But if it's right, not just about Iowa, but about some other upper Midwestern states like Wisconsin and Michigan, if we start to see women break more heavily toward Kamala Harris, that might change the landscape on election night. We'll have to wait and see, Janae.
Very interesting. Rick, thank you so much.
Oh man, libs are libbing the you can tell the right wing doesn't think they're doing well. Your boy Alex Jones is back. Yeah, that's dude.
You know.
Oh my God, he looks extra red. He kind of looks better now than he ever has, but also in this video, he looks super red. Other key findings in the Iowa poll: independent women back Harris by a 28-point margin. Senior women support her by more than a 2-to-1 margin, 63% to 28%. 97% of them support Harris, while only 89% of Republicans support Trump. I love old people now. Nah. Iowa had abortion protected by its state courts. Then just days before Dobbs, the Iowa State Supreme Court struck that right down. The GOP passed a 6-week abortion ban. It was upheld by the state Supreme Court this summer. This is the first election since that ruling. And here's what I think is being slept on this fall. There's a state Supreme Court justice in Iowa who's on the ballot in Tuesday. He sided with the majority in his 4-3 upholding of the abortion ban this summer. As a reminder, there are also state justices who upheld the abortion bans this year on the ballot in Florida and Arizona. In Arizona, the GOP has put a constitutional amendment on the ballot that would nullify those elections. If Kamala wins white women vote, it is an abortion. She should think it's Taylor Swift. No, dude, 80-year-old women are not voting for Kamala Harris because of Taylor Swift. They're not playing in their abortion ads.
Dr. Davis, what do I do?
John, she needs an abortion or she's going to die from the pregnancy.
Sorry, that's not happening.
What are you doing? Who are you?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we banned abortion. No exceptions.
You can't do this. She's dying.
I won the last election.
Okay, this is crazy because it's like this is kind of funny, but it's a real thing that's happening. So it's kind of up to make this. It's kind of up to make it in this way where it almost feels like comical. Like this is not hyperbole. This is not the A24 style horror flick that we saw with the other like cop pulling a young lady over with her dad when they're crossing the state border.
So it's my decision. But don't worry, you can still have children, just not with her.
Wir versprechen Ihnen, dass wir die Kommunisten, die linksradikalen Verbrecher, die wie Ungeziefer in unser
Jesus Christ. Okay, hold on. Let me make sure that we have the content, sensitive content warning up or not.
Sie vergiften das Blut unseres Landes.
Yeah, they're poisoning the blood of this country is like a direct verbatim Hitler bar. So that's like, that was pretty crazy. I mean, I think they're just saying Donald Trump's, this is a Trump speech just in German, but the enemy from within, poisoning the blood of this nation, like America for Americans, those are all direct verbatim, not paraphrase, Hitler bars, okay? Straight up. So when people go, dude, you're being hyperbolic. Like, no, that's just straightforward Nazi shit, okay? Thing is, Nazis committed genocide. It is kind of extreme to link a person with those guys just because your ideas are nationalist, don't you think? Brother, I hate this argument so much. I hate it so much. You're literally saying there is no reason to learn about history in order not to repeat the mistakes of the past, okay? I hate this dumbass argument, dude. You think they still weren't Nazis before they killed 6 million Jews? Like, how do you think we got there? why do you think there is like laws and guidelines surrounding what constitutes a genocide that Israel is violating on a regular basis? But that's besides the point. The entire goal is to stop it from happening before it actually gets to that point. All you're saying to me in this circumstance, okay? All you're saying to me in this circumstance is like, you're basically saying, let Trump mass deport a couple million migrants first before you can correctly call him a Nazi. And like, how many millions does he have to kill before you decide, okay, he is Adolf Hitler? You know, not only is he quoting Hitler, but his policies are also one-to-one directly Adolf Hitler. Okay, the original goals of the Nazi government was to do mass deportations as well. Like, you don't arrive at let's execute every single migrant before you arrive at they're dehumanized, they're not real humans, they're eating cats and dogs, they're doing barbaric, horrifying rape. Okay, you kind of have to get there. You kind of have to gear the crowd up to be open to the mass execution policies. There's a reason why it's called the final solution and not the first solution. Okay, this kind of stuff is just like very, very stupid. It's just like anti-intellectual in terms of conducting yourself, in terms of like launching an argument. And it's especially funny because like I made these arguments in 2016 about Donald Trump because I thought that there was enough there in terms of his dehumanizing rhetoric towards migrants in 2016. And he has only increased the pressure, and he has only quoted Adolf Hitler more, and chatters are still going, I don't know. This interview with of a German Post, World War II hits your point exactly how violence is ratcheted and normalized. From Milton Mayer, what no one seemed to notice at a colleague of mine, philologist, was the ever-widening gap after 1933 between the government and the people. Just think how very wide this gap was to begin with here in Germany, and it became always wider. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't make people close to their government to be told that this is a people's government, a true democracy, or to be enrolled in civilian defense, or even to vote. All this has really nothing to do with knowing one is governing. What happened here was the gradual habituation of the people, little by little, to being governed by surprise, to receiving decisions deliberated in secret, to believing that the situation was so complicated that the government had to act on information which the people could not understand, or so dangerous that even if the people could not understand it, it could not be released because of national security. And in their sense of identification with Hitler, their trust in him made it easier to widen this gap and reassured those who would otherwise have worried about it. The separation of government from the people, this widening of the gap, took place so gradually and so insensibly, each step disguised, perhaps not even intentionally, as a temporary emergency measure. I mean, this is like post 9/11 America and the normalization of like American war, no matter how bloody or how deadly. There's a direct comparison here with Israel as well and what Israel is doing currently. There's a direct comparison with like post 9/11 America and America's like attitude change. But yeah, in terms of like the way that Donald Trump talks about immigrants and how he lies about immigrants without any sort of pushback whatsoever, it's legitimately terrifying. And there are still chatters in here being like, I don't know, man. You can't really call him a Nazi. Like, yeah, you can. And you should. Because it's correct.
Des Moines Register is out with a brand new poll conducted by J.N. Seltzer's firm. This, as you know, is the gold standard of polling in Iowa, and it shows Vice President Harris with a 3-point lead over Donald Trump in that state. Harris has the support of 47% of likely voters to Trump's 44%. That result within the margin of error.
A gulf had opened up between the Jewish minority and the general population. The latter, while not mobilized around strident and violent anti-Semitism, was increasingly apathetic, passive, and indifferent to the fate of the former. Origins of the final solution. Slowly but surely, you increase the pressure that you and you consistently dehumanize the outgroup over and over again, and people just kind of turn a blind eye. This is why I am genuinely terrified about the liberal rhetoric surrounding the issue of immigration. With no counterbalance, with no pushback whatsoever. What about the squirrels, though? What squirrels, man? Shut up. Oh, my God. Don't understand why we're having this conversation right now.
Joining us now, pollster Jan Seltzer.
Co-worker ass chatters in the chat. Jesus Christ.
All right. Jan, obviously you are bringing, we're coming on air right now with this polling, and I mean, we could just put it up on the screen for folks because I didn't have this on my bingo card, as I like to say. Vice President Kamala Harris, 47%, Donald Trump, 44%. Take us inside your poll. What is new here? We know that there's a majority of Iowa men in this poll that say they prefer Trump. A majority of women prefer Harris among likely Iowa voters. This seems like something is happening.
It does seem like something's happening. Now, we've been living with the numbers day by day as we've been gathering the data. So we've had a little bit of time to get over the initial shock. You know, Iowa is a very Republican state. There's only one person at statewide office or federal office who is a Democrat. So to have the presidential candidate lead by a substantive margin was shocking to begin with. One of the reasons she is leading is because of her strength with women generally, even stronger with women age 65 and over. Her margin is more than 2 to 1. And this is an age group that shows up to vote or votes early in disproportionately large numbers. So it's a bit of the boost that Kamala Harris has gotten this time.
You know, for me, this is very telling of a lot of the effort and the importance of a little thing called ground game. And when a campaign...
Okay, why are you talking about Iowa? What kind of... I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm wrong on this, but what kind of ground game does Iowa have for the Democratic Party? Is there like a tremendous amount of work and tremendous amount of effort being placed? Maybe tomorrow and today. Like, what is the Democratic Party's ground game in Iowa? I'm sure they're pumping a ton. You're wrong. I'm sure they're pumping a ton of ads. They have a lot of money, dude. The Democrats have a lot of money. The leftover Obama squad put in the BAM bag together. Local Iowa Dems have been working hard, to be honest. Don't they have infrastructure there because of the Iowa caucus? Surely there's lots of volunteers there. Ohio Sheriff's Lieutenant in hot water as a social post. I'm sorry. If you support the Democratic Party, I will not help you. And the problem is that I know which of you supports the Democratic Party, and I will not help you survive in the end days. That's awesome. That's so funny, dude. These people are so... God, I love hogs so much. Why do I love hogs so much? Oh my God. Oh my God, I love my hogs. Oh, wonderful. Fantastic. Yeah. Did you see Trump coping about Iowa? Yeah. Yeah. I know. We're going to get there. Hold on.
Coming in with 107 days to make the case to communities across the country. And we know the importance of communities like ours. Iowa is a bellwether, particularly as you get closer to the election as it is in the beginning, right? So here we are at the end. What's your take on that aspect of this, that the numbers have changed so dramatically from the 18 points that Donald Trump had to now Kamala Harris over Joe Biden, 18 points, to now having Kamala Harris up by 3?
It's, you know, clearly there's something going on here if our poll numbers are correct. And it's the same method that I've used really since I started polling. So we have a good accuracy rate. We're comfortable with what it is that we do, which is to allow our data to reveal to us what's happening with the future electorate. So that may be the little lucky charm here, is that we're able to uncover the change that's happening on the ground. We certainly know anecdotally, as you drive around the metro area, you see far more, I guess I'd say far fewer Trump signs than we've seen in past cycles. But, you know, it's hard to put too much faith in that. So now we have some hard numbers. We'll see. I will just mention that neither of these candidates gets to 50%. So there still is some swing left to be determined on election night.
It has been fun to watch all of the folks who follow polls on Twitter try to decide what your poll means for other states. And so I wonder, when you look at white voters specifically, if you think there is something in your poll that you can extrapolate out to Michigan, to Wisconsin, to Pennsylvania.
Well, as your graphics are showing, there is clearly a gender gap there. Iowa is predominantly white, so there's not much analysis we can do on the non-white vote. But I think what it does say is that polls that are deciding that they know what the future electorate looks like may be basing it on past electorates. And in some cases, that would give Harris an advantage, and in some states, that would give Kamala Harris an advantage, or some would give Donald Trump the advantage. So we'll see how that plays out. I just feel like these numbers represent, our last poll in September had Trump leading by just a 4-point margin, when Joe Biden back in June had lost by an 18-point margin. So we're certainly seeing an upward, almost linear shift in the Democratic strength in Iowa.
You know, Jan, I just want to note that the only Democrat elected statewide in Iowa, Rob Sand, when your poll came out, he texted me, and Rob has been saying for a very long time, he is the state auditor, that there have been many close losses in Iowa, and Iowa is in fact a place that's in play for Democrats. And this poll to me indicates perhaps Rob Sand is right, you know, by putting in the work, infrastructure, as Chairman Steele just noted. Have Democrats made Iowa more competitive because of their presence there, and also the issue of reproductive rights?
21% shift because of abortion seems a bit much, though. The only way to analyze this is, one, the women voters, older voters in general. And also the fact that like Trump might be depressing Iowa voters with his rhetoric in general. But abortion is pretty consequential. And Donald Trump is running a dog campaign. The Democratic Party really hasn't done shit here, and honestly, the state party hasn't done much shit either. More the local county party apparatuses. We hate our governor, so we've been trying to flip our local Congress. That possibly trickled up to the top of the ticket. Source, Iowan.
Because that was something that bubbled up on the ground throughout the state, namely led by the governor herself.
Right. Well, I would mention that Rob Sand is that one Democrat elected statewide. So he's got his finger on the pulse of what's happening in the Democratic Party. As we were trying to determine, you know, this is a very short poll because there's no time left to write lengthy stories with lots of data in them. So we don't have as much data as we might like about why this is happening. But our
farmers, Trump, he actually ruined their lives for years. I've heard this a lot, but like, if that was the case, then Donald Trump wouldn't have gotten 53% of the vote in Iowa to Joe Biden's 44%, 45% of the vote. You know what I mean? Like in 2020, Donald Trump still won Iowa convincingly, right? So I have heard this argument. That tariffs weren't popular for the farmers. But you also have to remember, like, there aren't that many of them. That's number one. And like, it demonstrably did not move the results. And you also have to remember, a lot of these rural voters are not farmers, okay? They just LARP as farmers, but they're not. Yeah, hold on. Let's just finish this, and then I'll get to like the way that Trump is behaving and why I think it's like hurting him. Because Donald Trump is also going kind of crazy. He's going nutty mode, and it's not good. It's not looking too good for him in Trump world. Trump world is coping pretty hard on this. And yeah, we'll do hogwash later as well. Okay, let's continue.
Census from the reporters who work this beat
I haven't done
is
SNL
that the
yet.
6-month abortion ban went into effect just this past summer. And so I think as Iowans are starting to see the consequences of that, I think it has gotten people interested in voting. The thing we noticed in our September poll that shrunk Trump's lead by 14 percentage points, he lost no actual ground. He had as many respondents supporting him in September as he had in June, but the size of the likely voter pool had increased, and most of that 85 respondents went to Kamala Harris.
So Jan, let's talk about sort of the why, because that's the world I like to live in as a former party official. Is okay, why are voters doing what they're doing? Organization, as we just talked about, you and Simone, you know, that sort of planning that is all good and smart. It's all critically important. But the why narrative tells us a lot of the inside thoughts of the voters. And there are two aspects of the messaging here that feeds into the why. For the Trump people, the narrative that they tried to get up and out in front of voters was, are you better off, right, than you were 4 years ago? For the Harris campaign, it was a different kind of approach. It was, okay, I want you to size the two of us up. And you tell me which one you think is going to be better suited to take care of the nation's interests over their own. And I'm curious as you look at them, I'm sure you're going to peel back on these numbers a little bit more, but do you get a sense of the why in that space that the voters looked at the messaging here as a way to sort of the carrot that led them to where we are right now?
Well, I think that question about are you better off, that people tend to think, well, that's your pocketbook. There are other ways that people are not better off. And again, I go back to the Dobbs decision and the 6-week abortion ban, which put women of childbearing age into a danger zone. Some might feel it's that way. The thing I need to point out, and it was pointed out to me by one of the Register reporters, is that this change, I think, is largely organic. That is, the presidential campaigns haven't visited. They're not putting money into this state. So that it's not that this is something that has been created by the campaigns themselves. I think was largely written off, which is why this poll is such a surprise. So I think there's something more organic that people are deciding for themselves. This is the time I'm going to get off the bench. I'm going to show up, and that it appears from my data.
My boyfriend is a registered Republican, and he has stupid Trump stickers on his car. He said to me today, don't worry, he's not going to win. Damn. Another truth nuke. Another truth bomb coming in hot. Trump supporters are depressed. She's saying what you said 5 minutes ago, lol. Yeah, because, I mean, she's a pollster, and I understand what she's talking about. I already gave you the analysis as to why these people are popping off.
That is happening more on the people deciding to vote for Kamala Harris.
Stop yourself off. What do you mean?
As a former pre-med student at Johns Hopkins University, I appreciate organic chemistry. Jan Seltzer, thank you so.
Turning now to our brand new NBC News poll, national political.
How did no one see this or predict this before? I think that there are a lot of people who don't want to up as they have done. There is a crisis in consistently underestimating Trump's chances because of his capacity to hit low propensity voters and drive them out to vote. Okay? Having said that, however, I have kept telling you over and over again for the past couple of months that, like, while Kamala Harris is running objectively a bad campaign, are why gonna talk about Ethan? Love you. Chatter, it is November 3rd. I cannot begin to explain to you what is about to happen in the next 2 days. I am a political commentator. I think we're going to keep talking about the election. Please take a deep breath. Serious question. Do you think it's also media cherry picking to increase viewership and fearmonger? No.
Correspondent Steve Kornacki is here to walk us through all of the numbers. Steve, this is the moment we have been waiting for. What does this poll show us?
Yeah, I mean, fittingly, isn't it? At the very end, we find a tie nationally. 49% for Harris, 49% for Trump. Really, that's what we found when we last polled this a couple weeks ago. We go under the hood here and look at some of the other numbers there. There's this question of enthusiasm. A couple notable things here. This is the share of voters who are calling themselves very interested.
Do you like the cultivation of your current community when it comes to politics? Yes, I do. I love my community, and I love the community that I've cultivated. I think it's wonderful, and it basically keeps me alive, okay?
In this election, you can see it stands at 77%, which is down from 2020 when we had that historic turnout. Also, interestingly here,
I don't think that these guys are keeping it 50-50 for some secret, like material interest to keep the eyeballs on the election, or because they think that they want to like draw turnout. I think they are polling people and they're adjusting the polls with a Trump bump because of previous polls always consistently underestimating Trump because of his likelihood of because of the ways in which Donald Trump brings low propensity voters to come out and vote for him. That's it. And I've been saying this already. I think that the reason why they're doing this is because they have underestimated Trump too many times and they don't want to underestimate him again. So they're trying to do their very best. They don't want to look like they got owned.
The interest is lower among Hispanic voters and black voters. Typically, you would say that is bad news for Democrats. But this year, keep in mind, among black voters, that could be very troubling for the Democrats. But among Hispanic voters, the Trump folks are hoping for big strides. They've been seeing that in the polls. If that does not translate into Election Day votes, that could be trouble for them. Then we come to the issues that voters say that matter most to them.
Polling is not cheap, but I don't think this comes at the expense of journalism. I think the way that the Times uses polling to drive subscription and grow audience pays for the journalism, not the other way around. I would, however, like to have a better idea of who's going to win. News orgs pour tons of resources into polling at the expense of covering real issues, only to say 2 days before the election, we really have no idea if we're right or wrong. A final point that I hope is obvious from the whole of my work, but may not be obvious if you only read individual snippets. I have no idea whether our polls or any polls might be right. Polls be right, too good for Harris or too good for Trump. No one does. This cycle, I've tried to offer real meat to these scenarios with evidence, not just abstract 30% Harris landslide, 30% Trump landslide, 40% too close. If you personally found some of that evidence more convincing than others, that's great. Me, I have no idea. This is why I'm Mr. Vibes-based analysis post-polls, okay? That's it. Because even like the top pollsters, like Nate Cohn is the poll guy for the New York Times. Dave Wasserman, poll guy. Even the top pollsters or the top analysts for polls is turning around and saying like, I really don't know what the fuck's happening here. To be fair, I've always sprinkled vibes-based analysis on top of the polls. I cannot express how insane it is that Trump does good numbers with Hispanic voters. It makes sense. New from the Election Center, a very clear picture. It's a joke, dude. Quick summation of some of the points. There is no reason to believe pollsters fix what went wrong in 2020. There is some evidence. Non-response bias may be better, but also evidence is still there / no reason to assume it's gone. Unknown whether waiting fixes. Many pollsters, not us, have adopted heavy-handed practices that yield more Republican-leaning samples out of potentially, but not necessarily justify fear of systematically failing to reach Trump voters again. This is what I've been saying, okay? A lot of pollsters underestimated bigly Donald Trump in 2016. They still underestimated him in 2020, okay? Donald Trump still outperformed the polls in 2020. The difference is Joe Biden won, just not by the margins that polls were showing him winning by. And that is precisely the reason why pollsters were like, well, you know, Trump is Mr. Turnout in the general, especially. So we got to do something about it. And I think that the reason why the 2022 midterm polls were a lot closer wasn't necessarily because they had pollsters had overcorrected or had figured it out. The reason why 2022 polls were a lot closer within striking distance than like 2020 was because midterms have high propensity voter turnout. Okay, those guys are easier to predict. Those guys are easier to analyze. This is why I think that the midterm election polls were a lot closer to what ended up happening, whereas general election turnout is very different. Okay, that's the way I see it. And in order to, in my opinion, in order to make sure that they don't fuck up again in like or even be closer to the margins of the end results than even in 2020, they're overcorrecting with like at least a 2-point bump for Trump. And considering how close of a race this is, that obviously matters a lot. What the Atlas Intel Wisconsin poll, Trump picking up 65% of black voters. 65% of black voters. Look, Wisconsin is a weird state because it's like super rural. And that's why I've said out of like the blue wall, despite what the polls say, that's the one area that is the one state that is like, I think, trickier for the Democratic Party than the rest of the blue wall. Okay. That is an insane statement. There's 8 black people total in Wisconsin. It doesn't matter, dude. That's like 65% of the black voters, not just black men, 65% of all black voters. That is not, just specifically avoiding Milwaukee. Yeah. I'm from Wisconsin. I just don't believe that. Yeah, no, it's an insane. It also is weird because like 65% of black voters, only 24% of Hispanic voters is also crazy. And the Asian voters are split 50-50. Like, what the is going on in this poll, man? This is nutty. Misogyny voting for Trump is nasty work. No, this is not real, dude. What? Dude, there is not a... Okay, remember what I told you guys about how there is not a single state in the United States of America, the continental United States, that is majority in favor of heavy restrictions on abortion. Okay, I stand on that. I'll stand on that even if I don't see a poll. And I was correct. I was right when it came to Alabama, even though I hadn't seen a recent poll in Alabama. Right? Remember that? This is another thing that I will tell you right now. Okay, I have not seen any polls. I have not seen a single poll on the Wisconsin black population, okay? And I can assure you that there is not a single, this is crosstabs anyway, and it just is, this is just an unreliable ass poll overall, because I can tell you with a 100% certainty that there is not a single state where the majority of the black population, which also includes black women, okay, higher likelihood of voting and will vote by 80 to 90% for Kamala Harris. Like, the fact that black women and black men both are going to majority vote for Republicans is the most insane scenario. Okay. That is less likely than Texas and Florida flipping blue. Okay. The garbage truck bit only hurt Trump more with Puerto Rican voters. Oh my God. Oh, Owen Jones went to Wisconsin. Oh, hell yeah. Putting British people in hogland is always my favorite type of content. I'm always in favor of that. This is my favorite when they bring out the Guardian guy once every 4 years. Always funny until it happens to you. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's my special interest. Hogwatch is my special interest, but I especially love when Hogwatch is being conducted by like a British person who turns around and has to like speak to the hogs directly. It's the best. Because even if you straight up are a British hog, you still are not as hogged up as an American hog. I know this is cringe, but you can't do cross-tab diving unless the group you're looking at has what is called an oversample. Otherwise, the number of people surveyed is too small to be statistically representative. However, an odd result in the crosstabs doesn't discount the overall sample.
And how they rate the candidates. And I think, again, notably, Harris continues to do best on abortion, 20-point advantage there. Trump continues to do best on inflation, cost of living, an advantage there of 12.
This is something to watch on Election Day because, of course, she's actually doing better on abortion than Trump is doing on inflation and cost of living. We'll have to see how that pans out with the voters.
Absolutely. And we can continue and take a look here. This other issue, we've talked about it in our last poll, too, the dueling approval ratings. This is sort of an albatross for Harris here. Her administration that she's a part of, Joe Biden's approval rating sits at just 41%. And then there's this twist. Donald Trump, retrospectively, do you now approve of how he did as president? In our poll, 48%, almost half, give him that approval rating.
And we have to pause again because 48% is higher than the approval ratings he was getting when he was president, Steve. Really striking to see that.
Exactly. So is that a hidden advantage there for Trump in some way? Then there's this question, too. We just hear all the stories, all the images from early voting. And look at this. 2/3 of voters in our poll say they've either voted already or they're going to vote early. On Election Day, 1/3 of the electorate actually saying they will turn out and vote then. And you can see, we saw a bit of this in 2020, remember, the early vote here, more Harris-friendly in our poll. That Election Day vote, that's the big wild card. You don't know what that turnout will look like on Election Day. But if Trump has an advantage there, see if it's enough to overcome what he could potentially lose in the early side. And then the gender gap. Again, we've talked about this throughout the campaign. We've talked about this for decades. Trump up 18 with men, Harris 16 with women. That is a 34-point gender gap by about 10 points. If this happens, this would be the biggest gender gap ever recorded.
Stunning. And his lead with men bigger than her lead with women.
It's an interesting turnabout from, I think, what we've seen in the past in some cases here. And then you could just take a look here. These are the battleground states. We got some new polls this morning. And I mean,
Steve Kornacki's doing gender. They got him. He's woke now. Do you have anything big planned for Election Day? Yes, Josh, Edinger Mentum is going to be wearing his best khakis and we'll have a board behind him to do his best Steve Kornacki impression. I will say, especially with the Seltzer polls, like the number one pollster for the Majority Report, Chapo, and the Hasanabi broadcast is looking pretty fresh in comparison to everyone else. Now we'll see. We'll see on Election Day. He's either going to win big and become a legend, or he is going to have egg on his face. He's not going to be here. He's not going to be here personally. He's going to be tuning in from Discord.
Yeah, what can you say? These are the averages. And look, the most lopsided, quote unquote, 1.9 points for Trump in Arizona. So razor thin in the battlegrounds.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking.
This is funny. I kind of want to watch this.
When was the insurrection?
House divided. My parents split. My parents and I are split between Trump and Harris. Will you be bringing the gay on Tuesday? Yes, I think so. I just texted him. I forgot to ask him ahead of time because I always just assume that he would be here. Luckily, we already have a content warning in terms of like talking about politics. So him bringing up gay won't be, won't get a slap with an additional content warning. Are you taking the Tuesday off? Yeah. What are you, crazy? I was looking at something that I think is interesting, I guess. But I was looking at my stats leading up to the election. from 2020, and that was, remember, COVID, right? And the stats leading up to the election, my max viewership, like one day before the election or 2 days before the election, was around like 28K. And I guess I was wrong because like even back then it was during COVID too. And it's interesting to think about because like now I'm, 40K average, but leading up to the election, then it goes, it skyrockets after post-election for like the week or maybe even the month after. And I was wrong. Like I was wrong that I thought that the numbers were looking bad in comparison to like the last election cycle. And yeah, I did peak more than the election night with January 6th. Let's continue.
Take a look at the polling aggregates across those 7 key battlegrounds that we've been talking about, right? In your Sun Belt, you see a little bit more red than blue. In fact, there is no blue in the Sun Belt. But again, it's way too close to call. Trump by 3 in Arizona, 2 in Georgia, 1 in North Carolina, a tie in Nevada. Come over to those Great Lakes and a little bit more blue here. But look at this, just a point in Michigan.
But in 2021, there was a long period where you were 40K. That's why you're probably confused. Yeah.
Less than a point. When you're breaking out this symbol, Jessica, the less than, you know how close the race is. And then, of course, in Pennsylvania,
I was canvassing the other day while wearing your merch, and everyone out with me said they'll be tuning to you on Election Day. Hell yeah. Your numbers for the Never Kevers were hilarious. Can't believe people cared so much about that. Yeah, it was really funny. What was your peak during the Kevin McCarthy Speaker of the House situation? # Never Kever. Yeah, there was a lot of fun. There's been a lot of fun moments on this broadcast. Let's be real. We'll see. We'll see what happens with the election. Do you think they're purposely making the election look close when it's not? No, I'm not. I'm not thinking that. I do think that they are slanted in favor of Donald Trump a little bit, but that doesn't mean that they're doing it for like some secret reason. It is close. I think it is definitely a close election. Now, same day voter turnout is important. What's it going to take for Mike from PA coverage? Oh yeah, dude, of course. Dude, especially, listen, Michael from Pennsylvania, especially if Kamala Harris is winning, I'm a posterize your ass. And you can come talk if Donald Trump is winning. Okay? I'll give you your flowers. You know that I agree with your analysis. We're almost completely aligned on this. We're almost completely aligned on this. You are, I would say, like you and I are right in the center where I have been leaning in favor of Kamala Harris winning the election, and you've been leaning in favor of Donald Trump winning the election for the exact same reasons that we've talked about. The predictions for an unknowable outcome are close, but the results won't necessarily be. It's just not going to be reflected in any of the predictions because that's not how it works by definition. This is, we're going to talk about the Iran stuff in a second, but here,
There's a lot of spirit.
this is some, this is how Trump world reacted to the Seltzer poll.
He's right. Well, there's a lot of spirit here, you know. And we even have the polls up, but I think it's much more than the polls. No, the polls, I'm telling you, you can make those suckers sing. You get the right pollster, you can do, and you really do inflict damage, you know, when you do like this person from Iowa. Today, the election essentially is really, we're talking Turkey, comes out with a poll different from every other poll because it wasn't even in question. It's really the opposite way. I'm way up. If you look at 3-4 months ago, Dan,
Lil, what? Pennsylvania's got some fake ass names for his towns, dog. What the hell is Little Littits?
I was losing states that now are walks, you know, they're now walks. And I think you could have
I know about Middlesex. I think New Jersey has a Middlesex too.
that here. It's called suppression. They suppress, and it's actually should be illegal because it's.
I remember you having more fun in your 2020 election season streams than this one. You seem down to me. Is that a fair assessment? Yes. America is on the downturn. Clifford never covers about view
I need
count.
the latest. I need the latest. I need to be up to date, second by second.
53,000 people were tuned in to watch Never Kevers on the night. Okay, 53,000 people were tuned in, and I think it was like a Friday night. That's so stupid. That's so stupid, dude. Why is this community so dumb? But yeah, no, I am definitely more upset about the future of this country. And there are obviously good reasons to be upset about the future of this country. It's not as fun when you got an ongoing act of genocide that has been, happening for the past 12 plus months at this point. And both parties have become more reactionary on the issue of immigration. Like all this stuff hurts my soul. And I am genuinely fearful. about the future of this country.
In many ways, it's worse than the written word, which these guys do quite well, actually. He's right.
Yeah, he's coping. He's doing copium. I asked Trump if this is Jonathan Karl from ABC News. He says, I asked Trump if he believed there was any way he could lose. He said, yeah, I guess, Trump answered, I guess you could lose, can lose. I mean, that happens, right? But I think I have a pretty substantial lead. But you could say, yeah, you could lose. Bad things could happen. Crazy. I think the Ozempic is causing him to have low T. That's a wild take. That is a wild take because Trump world has been running with, we're winning every state. We're going to win New York. New York is a swing state now. It's so funny that he's depressed. There was an Emerson poll at the same time where he was up 10, Lamau. That's what I'm saying. I think, oh my God, a chatter is correct. Remember what I told you guys about the golf thing? You're right. It is no golf. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's the no golf. Oh my God. It became true. The prediction is real. Him not being able to golf anymore because of credible threats to his life is literally causing him bodily harm. Oh no. Oh no. Also, this was funny. NTD woke cameraman hurting Trump.
9 years, we've had the biggest rallies in history of any country. And
Hold on.
every rally
I gotta
is
grab
full.
my food.
You don't have any seats that are empty. You don't have anything. I mean, the one we had today, you missed a beauty. We could have filled that place up 20 times. I mean, that was beautiful. And the Virginia rally, did you hear about the Virginia rally? That was Glenn Youngkin did a great job, the governor of Virginia, and they had a crowd there that was incredible. And then we came here, and we don't want to be late, but it's very hard when you do these things. It's very hard, and you don't mind a little bit. We weren't very late. Just a few minutes.
You can't be
Just
doing
a
a
few
full
minutes,
pan.
depending on your definition of when it's going to start. But you know, we've been doing. I was talking to some
Grand
people.
Text, thank you for the 10
In a way,
gifted.
it's sad, and in a way, it's beautiful. It's just beauty. We could have filled that place up 20 times. I mean,
He's like, the crowds is so crazy. We've filled the entire arena. It's never been this full. It's never been this full ever.
that was beautiful. And the Virginia rally. Did you hear about the Virginia rally? That was Glenn Youngkin did a.
It's funny because he's getting fact checked in real time by the NTD camera person, which is wild because NTD is like the Falun Gong operation. They're the nuttiest guys out there. NTD and Epoch Times are like the Falun Gong. Keep going, it gets better. Hold on, I'm gonna keep going. Calm down. Jesus Christ, this is Trump world. This is like right side broadcasting going against what Donald Trump is saying, by showing the rally sizes not being as big or the room not being as filled.
The governor of Virginia, and they had a crowd there that was incredible. And then we came here, and we don't want to be late, but it's very hard when you do these things. It's very hard, and you don't mind a little bit. We weren't very late. Just a few minutes. Depending on your definition of when it's going to start. But you know, we've been doing. I was talking to some of the people. It's sort of, in a way, it's sad, and in a way, it's beautiful. I was talking to them, and I said, this is coming to an end. These rallies are coming to an end. We've been doing them.
Oh my God, they're showing people leaving. Oh, dude. I can't help but get a little libbed up, dude. I'm sorry. I know people think it's like gross of me, but when I see Trump having low motion or losing momentum, it does make me a little happy.
Years. We started a year before, and we've had tremendous success. In 2016, we did phenomenally, right? We went in, they gave us a 3% chance, and sort of like amazing, right? 3%. That means 97% for crooked Hillary and 3% for me. And I was saying, well, I went to Iowa, and I had 48,000 people, and she had about 300 people. And then we went to another one in another state. We had 49,000.
I think it's funny to say that about Hillary Clinton when Kamala Harris has had larger crowds and larger rallies than both Joe Biden, which happened during COVID, so it's a little different, and certainly than Hillary Clinton.
1,000 people. She had 243 people. And I kept saying, why are we going to lose? Why?
Even the viewership declined. It went from 4.8K to 4.4K in this time frame.
Why are we going to lose? And we didn't lose, We ended up winning, and we ended up winning the presidency, right? And that was an exciting night. Remember how it started? It started with a bunch of fake news. Look, there they are. That's a lot of fake news. That's a hell of a lot of fake news. The fakers, I call them now. I'm sort of lightening up. I'm starting to like them, too. I don't know what it would be like to get good publicity. I really don't. They treat me so badly.
Wait, they cut it off? Bro got fired on the spot. Okay, another point for Panic. They've activated Alex Jones.
They're not going to just give up easily after the impeachments and the Russian collusion crap and all the fake indictments and the lawfare. This is common sense. So I'm saying be ready for the Civil War conditions and the not certifying it, and Carville saying we need an armed uprising against Trump and Trump supporters. I mean, these people are going for broke. And mainline Republican supporters aren't really ready for this. Trump is starting to get it and was talking about all this just minutes ago.
Why does he look so red? Oh, here's another indication. Does he hate Trump? No, he loves Trump. That was, I think, what killed Alex Jones a little bit. Alex Jones used to be like anti-Bush. He was like, Bush did 9/11. Like, he was that kind of guy. And Trump totally brought him into the base. And he became this like annoying party defender, like party loyalist. And you can even hear it there when he's talking about like what we must do. He sucks. No president has done more for farmers in the great state of Iowa than Donald J. Trump. In fact, it's not even close. All polls, except for one heavily skewed towards the Democrats by a Trump hater who called it totally wrong the last time, have me up by a lot. I love the farmers and they love me. The just out Emerson poll has me up 10 points in Iowa. Thank you. Also, the garbage truck comments. The garbage truck bit only hurt Trump more with Puerto Rican voters, which is pretty funny. He did a callback to it. HuffPost spoke with several Puerto Rican voters outside of Seatown Supermarket in Bethlehem Southside, across the street from the Puerto Rican Beneficial Society. Nisla Vega and Nidel Pacheco of Hellertown, a borough south of Bethlehem, both said they had never voted before, but Hinchcliffe's remarks were the reason they plan to vote for Harris on Tuesday. That hit the spot right there, Vega said. They keep saying, oh, he's only a comedian. It still hurts. Pacheco saw Trump's decision to pose in a garbage truck at a campaign stop in Wisconsin the following day as an additional insult. If he didn't have nothing to do with it, what's he doing in the garbage truck? Pacheco asked. Pacheco. No one heard the Biden part of the story, so they assumed the garbage truck was a reference to the Puerto Rico comment again, most terminally online campaign on earth. Yup. It was too fast, too. It was too quick of a turnover. Last thing I'm going to talk about with the Seltzer poll. It's already been said by quite a lot of people at the point, but the main driving force of Harris's surge in the final Seltzer polls due to abortion in state's recent abortion bill. On the ground, I see this groundswell of opposition against the bill for months. To start with a basic fact, what do Iowans think of the 6-week ban? They dislike it quite a lot. As we've seen in many culturally conservative states over the last 2 years, a large majority of Iowans dislike the abortion ban. Again, too insane. Too insane for the normal whites. You can't have it. You can't do that. Can't be doing that. Even a plurality of men oppose the bill. An incredibly large majority of women in the state oppose it. In the breakdowns, you can shed some light on a lot of the more dramatic shifts in the Seltzer poll. 71% of suburban adults, 88% of suburban women. These are voters that are more likely to shift away from Trump this year when a lot of them voted for him in 2020. Why do you think men support the bill? More men support the bill? What do you think? What do you think? It's because they're dudes. They're never going to have to get an abortion. So they don't think. The entire premise of the abortion ban is basically about controlling women's bodies. And, not to get all Radlibby up in this, but yeah, men kind of with that. They like it. Or at the very least, they're selfish and they don't think about it. That's it. Yeah. For them, they either A, don't give because it's like, it don't bother me. I don't give a shit. Yeah, it seems like life is life. We should preserve it or whatever. Or they just straight up like it. Even pro-life advocates believe the bill is uniquely harsh. It single-handedly helped crash Kim Reynolds' approval rating. There are things Seltzer and many other people around here pointed in regards to the results of the final poll. And while it's easy to sift through the crosstabs and call bull, there are very good reasons to believe that the overall shifts are happening. To end, I'd like to note one little part of the Seltzer poll I found interesting. We didn't see Trump lose support. We saw Harris gain support. She surged with new voters and independents. In my opinion, that grants the poll different credibility than if Trump had lost a lot of ground. If you want more decent Iowa politics coverage, I might try to focus on it. Why is caring about things that specifically affect women radlib and therefore bad? Genuine question. No. I consider it radlibby to make like hollowed out reductive analysis to be like, oh, men are bad. Okay, that's it. That's why I'm saying not to get all radlibby, but men are kind of bad.